Hey, welcome to 9394, a music podcast with me, Travis. You know I'm happy to have you here. This is my 99th episode. That's a big deal. And I will be celebrating my 100th episode with a little bit more fanfare. I'll talk about that in a moment. But for my 99th episode, I'm going to do something that I haven't done yet on this podcast, which is do an episode with just me. It's just me. There's no guest. I'm the guest. It's me. Hi. Why am I doing this? For a couple of reasons. The main reason being that I want to talk about Warren Zevon. I fucking love Warren Zevon. I will find a way to insert him into pretty much any conversation I'm having with almost anybody, as most people in my life will probably tell you. He is my main guy these days, getting me through my 40s. So I wanted to be able to talk about his 1993 live album, Learning to Flinch, and it occurred to me that I'm not going to be able to find anyone in my circle who loves Warren Zevon as much as me, or even close, frankly, at least in my circle of people to talk about this album with me. Are there many other people in the world who are huge Warren Zevon fanatics, even bigger than myself? Yeah, there are. There's a lot of them out there. Chances are, if you're listening, you might be one of them. He inspires fanaticism, true fanaticism in his fans. So if I was patient, I probably could find someone, stranger, which would be great. I love getting strangers on the show. It's one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is to get new people on the show. But I'm impatient, so I want to talk about Warren Zevon before my 100th episode, because I feel like that is that's a benchmark, and I want to get Warren Zevon under my belt before I do that. And I also just kind of wanted to do an episode with just me. You don't get into podcasting because you hate the sound of your own voice. Some minor changes that I might make in the near future, or not changes, but more like additions, is I might do some more episodes with just me as I continue to whittle away at the content created between 1993 and 1994. I may spin off. I might start getting into some more territory. Maybe just some personal favorite albums of mine that I love regardless of what year they came out. Might do something like that. I'm not really sure. But when I started the podcast, despite the name, I always knew that I would go beyond 93, 94. I'm not ready to do that quite yet. We still have not done Guided by Voices B1000, an album that must have an episode done for it. I mean, that's just, can't believe I haven't done it yet. And some other big albums from 93, 94. We have a lot of work to do. But today, I want to focus on Warren. I think it's important to preface this by saying that most of the information that I will dispense here comes from two main sources, one being the VH1 documentary that was created at the tail end of Warren Zevon's life. Famously, he announced when he was given his cancer diagnosis that he was dying. He told everybody. He was told to expect probably 3 to 5 months or so to live. He ended up living a little over a year later. But during that time, suddenly, an industry, media, even his own fans, people that had not been giving him his due, suddenly realized, oh shit, a great artist is leaving this earth. We should probably, give him the full treatment. And he has yet to get the full 5-hour documentary treatment that, say, Billy Joel or Tom Petty has gotten. But this Behind the Music VH1 documentary that I'm pretty sure you can only find used on DVD like I did, it's fascinating, man. You're following him very closely through the process of writing and recording his last album, The Wind, before his death. That's heavy stuff, but it's awesome. And then the main source here, which any Zevon fan knows, is the book from his first wife and lifelong friend, Crystal Zevon, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, The Dirty Life and Times of Warren Zevon, that came out in the year 2007. If you are a Warren Zevon fan, you must read this book. If you like pop culture, if you like just learning about wild dudes and their untamed genius and the fucking assholes that they were, because let's face it, Warren Zevon was an asshole, he'd be the first to announce it. You should read this book, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. He asked his wife on his deathbed, basically, for her to write the book about him and to leave no stone unturned and, a whole warts and all thing. Like he said, tell him everything. Tell him every dirty little piece of business. And it is a true tell-all. She interviewed all of his friends and collaborators. So industry insiders like Waddy Wachtel and producers and stuff like that. And then musicians that he was close with like Jackson Browne and Bruce Springsteen and people that he worked with and his regular collaborator, co-songwriter Jose Calderon and a bunch of other people, his kids, his family members. It's just their words. It's interviews of their perspective of his life. It's fantastic.
Chickering. Every day I'd sit and play that thing. I practiced hard, it was more than a whim. I played with grim determination, Jim. Someone called a piano fighter. I'm a holy roller, I'm a real low rider. Hold me tight, honey, hold me tighter. Then let me go, piano fighter. Let me go, piano fighter.
Okay, so I usually start these episodes by talking about how I know the guest or how the guest knows me. And we always talk about how we got into this album, whatever it is that we're talking about. Since it's just me, I will tell you how I got into this album and how I got into Warren Zevon. Because Warren Zevon was someone that I had no appreciation for, no respect for, no interest in, could barely remember his name for most of my life. Until my mid-30s, I think, so probably about 10 years ago, was when I was properly introduced to his music in the form of his, technically second album. He liked to pretend like it was his debut album, but his second album from 1976 that was self-titled. When I lived in Philadelphia and was going to school there at Temple University in the grad program for history, I met this great guy named Steve who got me a job at a local craft beer shop, which was a really fucking cool place to work at. I literally just was introduced to all the best craft beer of the state in America that has more breweries than any other state in the country. And we had beer from all over the world. So I gained some weight working there. I drank a lot of beer. But I got to control the radio. Whoever was working, they were in charge of the stereo. Sometimes I worked alone, or sometimes I, worked with other people. And I used to work with Steve, who I knew from school, who also worked at this beer store. And Steve was a great guy. We kind of lost touch. I hope he's doing well. And he never knew, I don't think I ever got a chance to tell him that his introduction of Warren Zevon to me ended up having a big impact, because it kind of took a while. I remember he put on that first or second album, that 76 self-titled album. He put it on, and I was kind of like, this is interesting. Who is this? And he said, Warren Zevon. I was like, what the fuck, really? Like the Werewolves of London guy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, whatever. And it turned out I recognized a couple of the songs, like Carmelita. I don't know if they were his versions that I recognized, but I recognized a couple of them. And I was like, okay, this is all right. And he probably threw it on one or two more times. Then I started throwing it on. He quit. He moved away. And so I kind of became like not the only person. Like, I ended up being like one of the people that was at that store the longest for the time that I was there. So I had like some weird authority, even though I wasn't like a manager. And one of the things I loved to do was play full albums. I always played full albums, and it was typically what you'd expect based on what you heard from me talking and listening to this show. Is a lot of shit from the early mid-90s. And also a lot of stuff that I also listened to, which is from like the mid to late 70s, maybe early 80s. Like Warren Zevon and Bruce Hornsby and Van Morrison. So I started playing that album on a regular basis and became obsessed with it. And from there, ended up just having to absorb every single Warren Zevon album. I have just dug through them all, man. I have listened to every single one now. And I've spent more time with some than others, It's one of the funny things when you get into someone after they're dead, you can sort through their entire discography at your leisure, and just really pace yourself and enjoy it. And now I've had time to kind of do all that, and Learning to Flinch was an album that I was slow in getting to. It was one of the last albums of his that I really started digging into until recently. And that was another reason why I thought, well, shit, it's time to do an episode on Warren Zevon, because I've been digesting Learning to Flinch.
She tells him she thinks she needs to be free. He tells her he doesn't understand. She takes his hand. She tells him nothing's working out the way they planned. She's so many women, he can't find the one who was his friend. So he's hanging on to half her heart. He can't have the restless part. So he tells her to hasten down the wind.
In 1992, Warren undertook a lengthy world tour. It was maybe kind of a continuation of a tour that he'd been doing, but this was acoustic only, just himself. He had some struggles throughout his career in terms of having like a steady band that would work with them and play with them. He could be a little rude to some of them. He was the kind of guy that would form really strong bonds with people and then have huge falling outs with them. And sometimes, if not more often than not, never rekindle those friendships. So he kind of burned through players. So that's him, just him on this tour. And he goes from America to Europe to New Zealand and Australia. And he plays the hits. He does, of course, the one you would expect, but he does all the other ones that his fan base had generally considered hits, and he did some others that others had covered. He had some songs that were popular hits for Linda Ronstadt, for instance, such as Hasten Down the Wind.
She's so many women, he can't find the one who was his friend. So he's hanging on to half her heart. He can't have the restless part. So he tells her to hasten down the wind. He tells her to hasten down the wind.
He was someone that, he had a rock star sized ego, but he had to fight and scrape for the recognition that he knew he deserved. And I think that this tour is one of his ways to do that, to show off his chops with either an acoustic guitar or a piano. He had an organ with him and a piano. So the this whole album is pretty, acoustic. So let's start with my favorite song on the album. Well, okay, that's already kind of a complicated thing here because there's two ways to look at this. There's what's my favorite song that he wrote that is on this album, and what is my favorite version of a song that he wrote that's on this album, right? Because these are live versions, and he plays around with them. He does some showing off. He does some flourishes. He'd make some changes on some of these. Some of them are really straightforward. Some of them not so much. And so I'll start by talking about my favorite song of his on this album, even if this version of it is not as good, in my opinion, as the album version, is The French Inhaler.
How are you gonna make your way in the world when you weren't cut out for working? When your fingers are slender and frail? How are you gonna get around in this sleazy bedroom town if you don't put yourself up for sale? Your scars and your miracles, who's gonna know?
The French Inhaler is one of the highlights of that 1976 self-titled album. It is beautiful. It is, it's also kind of brutal. I mean, it's a breakup song, and he's singing about the mother of his first child, his first son, Jordan. His first wife, she's reportedly, according to Jordan, fine with this. Some of the things that are in the song, even despite the kind of insulting nature about some of it. I guess it's complimentary to have a song written about you. But it's a great song, and it really demonstrates his versatility as a songwriter, his ability to kind of not follow convention unless he wants to when it comes to the structure of the song. The biggest thing for me about the French Inhaler is, aside from the brutal self-assessment that takes place in the song, because that's also something he's very good at, is like a sardonic leveling of himself in his music and a blunt, bare honesty. The best thing about this song to me is this line right here, this lyric.
I said you're an actress, yes I believe you are. I thought you'd be a star, so I drank up all the money. Yes, I drank up all the money with these phonies in this Hollywood bar. These friends of mine in this Hollywood bar. Loneliness and frustration, we both came down with an acute case. But when the lights came up a toe, I caught a glimpse of you, and your face looked like something death brought with him in his suitcase. Your pretty face looks so wasted. Another pretty face, devastated.
I mean, Jesus, right? Like, whew, that's the mother of your child you're talking about, but what a fucking great line. It's just, that whole bit, it's hard not to play the whole song for you here, but you get the gist. It is a powerful song that I think, if you really like this version, check out the album version. It's great. And again, this is great too, because it's Warren doing his solo thing. But this song, The French Inhaler, is, for me, top 5 Warren Zevon songs, and being that he's pretty much my top artist, I think that says a lot. Yeah. Top 5, top 10, top 8 songs by Warren Zevon. All right, I hope this is fascinating for you. I will move on to the actual best song on the album, in my opinion here. That is the best track, right? The best version on this album. And for that, this is I really am not sure. I have to really think on it. Such interesting versions of songs that his fan base was already very familiar with. But I think I'm going to have to give up the best song on this to actually, it's 2 tracks because it is the central piece of this album. He builds the Rollin' Corral and then Rollin' the Headless Thompson Gunner into one huge event. And that, I think, is the best song on this album. He really demonstrates his piano chops. You know, Warren, my buddy Warren, I'm on a first name basis with him. Warren was classically trained. I'm trying to remember the name of the pianist that he first worked with, but he was like a composer, like a serious, like a big deal in the classical music world. And Warren Zevon, the son of a gangster, literally, pretty spoiled kid, frankly, but also had a not so great home life. So he was both spoiled by his father and kind of had it rough too, particularly when his parents broke up and, a new stepdad moved in who was a dick to him. But he had, Warren, at a young age, musical ability. And this composer, whose name I could look up, but I'm just going to be lazy, I guess. Sorry. Read the book. This composer lived nearby, and he went and met him just because he heard that he could play piano well, and he could. And he worked with him some, and he had his own piano, and he learned guitar at a young age and started working with some other people. He grew up in California, so he was kind of growing up alongside the burgeoning Laurel Canyon scene. He met some people early that helped him out, in particular the guys from the Turtles. In 1967, Warren's song Like the Seasons was recorded by the Turtles and used on the B-side of the single Happy Together, which is a pretty huge song. So that kind of helped him, it definitely helped him financially support himself early on and be able to plunge into being a musician first and foremost. All right, I'm getting distracted trying to tell you Warren's life story. Suffice it to say that he was someone that had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder about his playing style. When it came to piano, he loved that he was widely recognized as a good pianist, but he also wanted people to see that he could do the same kind of things that Billy Joel could do, for instance. He was a composer. He was a classic pianist in a lot of ways. But then he also could get kind of, snide about people underplaying his guitar playing skills because he prided himself on being a hell of a guitarist, which he also was. So anyways, Rollin' Corral and then Rollin' the Headless Thompson Gunner is an opportunity for him to really show off his piano playing styles here, and this turns into a well over 10-minute version of this song, which is great. I mean, it's a fucking indulgence. If you like this song in particular, if you like Warren, it is just a treat to just spend this time with him and have him play around and show off and put all these frills on and just really demonstrate the powerhouse of a pianist that he was. what he can do? He wasn't just a rock star. He was something else. He was, in the minds of a lot of his fans, such as myself, a genius. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, including by me. Who am I kidding? But I think that Warren was a genius as a pop star, as a writer of pop music, and as a collaborator. You know, he was someone that worked with so many different people in so many different ways. He had again, like I mentioned earlier, he had like a rotating cast of musicians that he worked with, but he also would often have friends of his jump in and help play anything, like just anything on the album, but also help write parts. Sometimes it'd be lyrics or write parts of the songs, write different choruses, whatever. Jackson Browne and Stevie Nicks and Bruce Springsteen, Ry Cooder, Billy Bob Thornton, Jose Calderon, who I mentioned earlier. A whole bunch of people just worked with him to create this huge catalog of music that he got all the credit for the most part. But he was genius to work with others and be so open and collaborative. Not that he's the only person to ever do that, but he has, to me, that X factor, that kind of thing that I often attribute to Bruce Springsteen as well, where it's almost hard to put my finger on what it is that I love so much about his music, but the more I listen to it, the more I love it and the more I need it. And there'll be songs that I'm kind of not that into that with repeat listens become my favorite songs, or at least ones that I can stand. But what's my least favorite song on this album? It's my least favorite song of the entire Zevon oeuvre. I am, of course, talking about the song that everybody else loves. Yeah, I gotta be that guy. My least favorite song on this album is Werewolves of London.
I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for the place called Lee Ho Fook's. Gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein. Ahoo! Werewolves of London. Ahoo! Werewolves of London.
Now, I appreciate Werewolves of London. It paid his rent. It paid for his kids to go to school. It's brought a lot of joy to people, particularly during the Halloween season, which I'm into that. And I love werewolves. Yeah, if you like listening to me speak, just me, myself, about something, my first podcast was actually called A Very Broad History of Werewolves and Other Things. And I just sat there in front of a mic like I am right now and gave like 40-minute episodes about random pieces of history, anything I could think of. Blockbuster Video, cigarette smoking, Stevie Wonder, and, of course, werewolves. So check that out. It is a dead podcast that I might resurrect someday, but it's out there. You can find it. A Very Broad History of Werewolves and Other Things. So I like werewolves. I fucking love Warren Zevon. Why don't I like Werewolves of London? It's just... it's his Brown-Eyed Girl. You know, it's the song that's the most overplayed. It's the song that people associate with him. Most of all, me. I dislike it so strongly because it kept me from liking him for most of my life. Until my buddy Steve at the beer store introduced me to that 1976 self-titled album, all I knew about Warren Zevon was really Werewolves of London, and I thought it was pretty fucking cheesy. And I still do. You know, him and Waddy Wachtel and Leroy Marinell had some drinks, because this was written during Warren's alcoholic years, and rattled off this song in like a fucking evening. It was a couple hours. They knew, and he addressed that the piano line is essentially Sweet Home Alabama, which is, you know, a song he also referenced on the same album, Excitable Boy, in the song Play It All Night Long. But as for Werewolves of London, it's just... it was a song that to him was even kind of forgettable, and by some spoof became the song most associated with him. There were songs that he labored over and that are incredibly more personal and powerful, insightful and interesting, resonant, deep in his catalog than this. And that's why I don't like it. It kept me from appreciating him for a long time, and I think it probably has some other people too, because if this is all you know about Warren Zevon, I could understand being like, yeah, I don't need to hear more. I can't. That's it. So it's not a terrible song. It's a moneymaker for him, and it's a popular song, and maybe it's your favorite song. I don't know. I don't dislike it necessarily because it's Warren Zevon, and it is incredibly important in his career, but man, yeah, it's just not the one for me. Now, what about the underrated tracks on this album? Again, I think that there's a couple ways we could look at this, but I'll be a little bit more structured in my approach to this question. There's 3 songs on this album that did not appear on any album before this. 2 of those 3 songs were then on the following album, Mutineer. He re-recorded those songs like in a studio and gave them their proper due. There's 1 song on this album that is not my favorite song on this album. It's not one of my favorites of his career. It's not my second favorite on this album or anything. But for any Warren Zevon fan, it's going to be an underrated song because this is the only place you're going to find it. And I'm talking about the song Warrior King.
I got a bird. Worried about that bird, and I worry about everything, and I worry when I see my subjects bow down to the warrior king.
Yes, that's right. Warrior King, not Warrior King. Ha ha ha. Thanks, Warren. Clever. Doing some interesting things here with the guitar. This slide work is not something that you really hear in anything else that he ever released. And also lyrically, I find this song really interesting too. Again, it's not my favorite, but there's some interesting things happening here, such as just like the opening track, the song Splendid Isolation. Like that track, Warrior King is kind of a celebration of being by yourself. Well, Splendid Isolation is a straight-up celebration. This one's a little bit more like, I'm paranoid. I won't leave the house. I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want the mailman to come. And I find that really interesting because Warren is someone that lived alone for much of his life, but also didn't seem like he spent a lot of time alone or could be alone, especially when he became a recovered alcoholic, which that happened in, when did he recover? I want to say the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. He often had a lot of women that lived with him and that kind of stuff, but he always was on tour, always had a partner, a girlfriend, many different, usually at the same time, partners and girlfriends. He was, I think, a sex addict, and that, I think, stemmed from his need to have someone validate him at like all times. It's funny, I don't mean to come off like I'm judging him. I love him deeply, but one of the things I love about him is his humanity. And I love that he wanted his ex-wife, Crystal, to divulge all those dirty sides about him because his humanity comes across in his music, and we can get to know him some through that. And to me, that relatable humanity in his music, is, especially in his lyrics, is what makes him so important to me. So Warrior King, good. Not the best song on the album by any means, but it's something that should be acknowledged more by his fan base because it's not on any other album. All right, we're getting towards the end here. Like I said, I wanted to make this kind of a shorter episode. I'm resisting the urge to talk about every fucking song on this album. I will mention a couple things real quick. For another example of him showing off and doing a really long version, like a big highlight of this album, check out his version of Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me on this album. That's also really impressive, just showing off his guitar skills on that one. You can hear it here. It's almost like a Irish ditty or something. So that's a really good one. So check that one out. The last song I'm going to play for you, and I'm going to use to go out on, is this rather somber version of one of his more rockin' songs, Play It All Night Long.
Grandpa pissed his pants again, he don't give a damn. Brother Billy has both guns drawn, he ain't been right since Vietnam. Sweet home Alabama, play that dead band song. Turn those speakers up full blast, play it all night long.
Remarked in his life that people that think that this song is a joke don't get it. And he once was in a little bar in, I want to say, Nebraska or something like that, and these farmers came up to him and were thrilled. They were like, hey, we've heard Play It All Night Long, and like, you fucking nailed it. This is what the farm life is about. And that meant a lot to him, those guys telling him that. It's another homage to Lynyrd Skynyrd and to country living, as he would say. But this version is just so... it's kind of truer to the lyrics. The version on the album, Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School, is more raucous and fun. It'd be a good live song to see, you know, back in the day. Which, my God damn it, I wish I'd seen him live. If I was cool in 1993, I mean, I was pretty cool for some of the shit I was listening to, but if I was really cool, I would have gone to see him in Detroit at the Magic Bag Theater in 1993 if I'd been cool, because apparently no one was there, and that was coming off of this, so he was probably still doing the acoustic stuff. But no, I missed that. Anyways, so this version of Play It All Night Long is just so fucking bittersweet, man, and it's a great way to end the album, and it's how I'm going to end this episode. Again, no trivia or anything this time. I will just say thank you for listening for all of this time. 99 episodes. It means a lot to me, you guys. I can't thank you enough. Your listenership is crucial to me making this podcast. I'm not going to release these episodes if no one's listening. You can write the show if you want to. Please do. You can write me at 9394podcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of me doing an episode just by myself with no guest. Is this boring as fuck? Is this as interesting, less interesting? I'd be curious, for some feedback. You could write me if you want to be on the show. I'm always looking for guests to be on the show as I enter my next 100 episodes. If you've never been on before, maybe now is the time. You could do any album from the era, any album from 1993 or 1994 that I haven't already done. And I'm not going to give any suggestions this time because I just want to end with Warren. So, I love you, Warren Zevon. Thank you for everything. As Warren Zevon once said on David Letterman when asked about how he approached life differently knowing that he was going to die, he said that he now made sure that he enjoyed every sandwich. So, in those immortal words of Warren Zevon, y'all take care, enjoy every sandwich.
9394, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.